Alyssa, the effect of the mind, what we think on the body, is standard medicine. Psychosomatic medicine is well understood. You've been doing research that really extends the impact of what the mind can do to the body. Tell me about it.
So it's absolutely true that the idea of the mind influencing the body, and even vice versa, goes both ways, is very old. And how can we shed light on the mind-body connection and how we might use it to help us? So there's been just so many what I'll call incremental studies looking at how different ways stress, depression, hostility, these kind of chronic states that we find ourselves in from chronic stress and from upbringing and conditioning, and how these are just simply bad for predicting disease onset, worse prognosis, earlier mortality. So we know all that. How can we really drill down and
Hmm.
understand what is happening? Why is it that some of us age at a more rapid rate than others? So what is new here is it's helpful to look early on, early in life. What is moving around the aging clock? How can we find the malleable factors, the mindsets, the lifestyle factors, the right type of pills or nutrition that will slow the aging clock? I mean, we are all so pumped up and accelerated in our aging with all of our excesses of food and really of stress too. And so we're all kind of inflamed as we age. We get this kind of what we call inflammaging, these high levels of inflammaging that are just causing havoc on our cells' ability to replicate in a normal way and stay healthy and keep tissue healthy. And so, most of the chronic diseases of aging are in some way related to this kind of slow increase of inflammation or invisible burning fire within. How some people describe it. So now the field is able to look inside the cell and just look at the machinery. How well is it functioning? Is the clock accelerated? There are different ways to do that. So we've been looking at telomeres, these caps at the ends of chromosomes, and as
Chromosome being the genetic material within the cell within which the DNA is coiled.
Exactly. And so particularly in these cells that need to divide throughout life, like the immune cells, the telomeres have got to stay long for that cell to keep dividing
The
and
ends
doing
of the
its job.
chromosomes.
The caps at the ends of the chromosomes. So that's one factor that we've been looking at. And now we're starting to look at other aspects in that aging cell, like how well is the mitochondria functioning, what genes are being expressed from that DNA in that type of cell. And we start in this humble, simple way, and we do these bivariate correlations. So we're looking at one thing and one outcome. And
What's an example?
So we've been looking at stress and telomere length for years. And the story adds up and holds weight and is something we can be really confident in at this point. And that is that adversity in all forms, depression, psychiatric disorders, early trauma, stress when you're in the womb, all of these things are causing a similar biochemical milieu. They're chipping away at that cell's age. And it's also likely that early on, when we're under stress, it's also shaping how our brain works. So it's causing us to be more stress reactive in the way we see things throughout life. So that's one way we've been looking at this mind-body relationship. But we know that everything moves together, and all these parts of the cells are interrelated and connected. And so we're starting to try to look at the different models of aging in the cell together and see, is it they're all interrelated in some way. Can we actually get a bit better, bigger picture of how we age by simultaneously looking at a complex system? And that's, of course, more challenging and more money. And it's not a great time in science to be doing, more this kind of complex systems biology. But we're trying to move there so we can really understand the mind-body connection more. But telomeres, because that's what we've had our hands on so easily, it's been informative. It's been interesting.
So what are some of the things that either decrease the size of the telomere and therefore age us more quickly and
Mm-hmm.
bring about more of the diseases of aging?
Mm-hmm.
Or alternatively, what are the kinds of things that keep telomeres big and fat and young that protect us?
Yeah. So one big part of that variance is genetics. So you tend to be born with long telomeres or short. And then a lot of that variance is shaped throughout life, through our lifestyle and our experiences. So when we're older, for example, telomere length is not as correlated in twins. And the twin with a shorter telomere length tends to be the one who looks like they're under more stress, like with a lower socioeconomic status, for example, and less exercise. And so the genetics is a piece, but we really do see the effect of the environment, even in these twin studies, especially in these twin studies.
What are some environmental effects?
The environmental piece, what's outside of our body, we haven't been great in quantifying. We have started to see effects, our lab and others in the field, that the neighborhood you live in is associated with the length of your telomeres. How much money you make, how much education you've attained earlier in your life, decades earlier in your life, is associated with the length of your telomeres in
The
late
more
life.
education you have, the longer it would be?
The more, exactly. So the more years of education.
But for some people, the more education they have, the more stress they have. I can give you one example right here.
Yeah, tell me. What kind of stress do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, it's, the pressure of education and having to succeed and be
Yeah.
one of the smartest in your class. And the longer that, year after year after year, there's a lot of stress.
Yeah. But really, is that survival stress? It's different than the threat of not having enough food to eat, food insecurity, and not knowing if you're safe. It's different. So I'm not belittling it. I'm under the same kind of stress, and it's certainly not good for us to go unchecked and unexamined, and without breaks. But it's different than the type of low-income stress that people are born into and deal with chronically. Or fall into. And that type of stress is different because people don't have a sense of control. And so when something happens, they don't have the resources to cope with it, and smaller stressors can turn into bigger disasters.
In terms of length of telomere and therefore in the aging and disease process, is stress like the most important variable that you've discovered? Or how about some of the others?
That's what I've been focused on. There's a lot of lifestyle variables. So vigorous exercise is associated with with longer telomeres. And in fact, if you're under a lot of stress and you do vigorous exercise, you tend to not have the short telomeres that some sedentary person might if they're under stress. Nutrition's important. We haven't quite figured that out, but so far it looks like taking vitamins and taking omega supplements or having a lot of omega free fatty acids in your blood.
Lots of salmon.
Yep, absolutely. That's associated with the longer telomeres. We're just about to publish a study, Dean Ornish's study. He's been following a cohort of men with prostate cancer. He had them go through this rigorous lifestyle intervention. They lose weight, their cholesterol improves, they learn stress reduction management skills. And so years ago, he showed that they increase in this anti-aging enzyme, telomerase, after they go through his program. Then he followed them for 5 years. And as a group, they tended to look like they had more lengthened telomeres or stable telomeres. And then when you look closely, it's those who do the work every day, those who adhere to the health behaviors. So if you're still doing some things for stress reduction, some yoga or other practices, and you're still exercising, you're really getting the benefit not only of maintaining your length, but it looks like some of those men might have even gotten longer in their telomeres. So it's really, there's no magic bullet. It's like what we do every day, what we think in the moment matters. We've found that people who report that they do more mind wandering, kind of wishing they were somewhere else, no good. That's associated with shorter telomeres, independent of all the other things we've known to measure and study, like stress.
So be happy where you are. It is what it is. Enjoy the moment.
Almost. I would say be content where you are, because I think happiness is another myth that we try to chase and think that we need to be happy. And that is not typically a state that lasts in that sense of, hedonic pleasure that you get from doing something thrilling or eating really, highly palatable food. Those are states we should notice and enjoy, but not chase. That, I think, kind of leads to the excesses and the discontent and the materialism that we just soaked in.